I always believe that you need to be true to yourself.
You might be wondering who I'm talking to. Not myself. Billy Squier is in the studio with us tonight.
Hello, everybody. Everyone all right tonight? Everybody, have you heard?
Trying to, I don't know if I would say trying to reinvent myself, but I try to find ways to keep myself kind of current with what my images and my place is in the music world. And so what I'm doing now is trying to focus a lot of the attention on the songs that I've written without being a overly sensitive singer-songwriter.
Billy Squier. For a brief, brilliant stretch in the early 1980s, he was one of the biggest rock stars in America. His music dominated the airwaves, his videos lit up MTV, his albums sold in the millions, and then, almost overnight, it was over.
Really, the pressure for me was more internal, that it's important for me to maintain a certain continuity and consistency in my work.
This is the story of a gifted songwriter, a versatile guitarist, and a man whose career was shaped as much by timing, talent, and image as by a single, fateful misstep. But Billy Squier's legacy runs deeper than one moment. This is a tale of early promise, peak success, an infamous fall, and unexpected redemption. William Hayslip Squier was born on May 12, 1950, in Wellesley, Massachusetts. He grew up in a solidly middle-class New England home, a suburban enclave that hardly seemed like the breeding ground for a future rock star. Music wasn't exactly in the air, but it wasn't far off. His grandmother gave piano lessons. He took a few, then he got bored, but he didn't forget it. He listened to the melodies, remembered the patterns. It laid a foundation. His real awakening came with the guitar. By the time the British invasion hit, Billy was transfixed. The Beatles, the Stones, the Yardbirds, they weren't just music, they were freedom. And in their wake came Hendrix, Clapton, Page. Squier learned their riffs, studied their tone, and began writing songs of his own. Music quickly shifted from a hobby to an obsession. As a teenager, he played in local garage bands and tried to find his own sound. He briefly attended the Berklee College of Music in Boston, but it didn't take. He wasn't interested in being told how to play. He was interested in playing how he felt. Berklee was technical, clinical. Squier was instinctive, emotional. He dropped out and committed himself to rock and roll. By the mid-70s, Billy had formed Piper, a band with a lean guitar-driven sound, and Squier out front, playing and singing. They were signed to A&M Records and released their self-titled debut in 1977, followed by Can't Wait in 1978. Critics liked them. Circus magazine called Piper the greatest band that never was. Squier was writing sharp, hooky rock songs with a glam edge. There was buzz, but not sales. Their albums didn't catch fire. Still, Piper gave Squier something he hadn't had before: experience in the industry. He toured, he recorded, he learned what worked and what didn't, and he realized something important. If he was going to make it big, he'd have to do it solo.
You know, I want to do something new, and so I wrote something new for it. And it was all, I started getting this idea that it would be a real challenge to be a one-man band. You know, I mean, it's a way different thing to have to sit by yourself and be entertaining, you know, and with no tricks and no production.
In 1979, Piper broke up. Squier went to Capitol Records and pitched himself as a solo act. They gave him a shot. The result was his first solo album, The Tale of the Tape. It didn't set the charts alight, but it caught ears in the industry. It was tight, riffy, full of energy. The standout track, The Big Beat, didn't even chart, but it had an edge, a swagger, and a drum sound so massive it would later become one of the most sampled in hip-hop. Run DMC, Big Daddy Kane, Jay-Z. They all came calling, but that would come later. At the time, Squier was still mostly unknown, still hustling. He needed a hit. He needed a breakthrough. It came in 1981. Don't Say No was a monster. It was lean, aggressive, but polished.
This album, I mean, I don't think Don't Say No you'd say was a heavy metal album.
No, I wouldn't.
Now, you co-produced that, you wrote all the songs, performed, and you co-produced it. Do you like producing?
I do. I have a tendency to kind of meddle in all of my affairs.
Produced by Reinhold Mack, who had worked with Queen, it captured the rock energy of Squier's live performances and gave it a clean, radio-friendly shine.
You produced this album with a guy called Mack, who did the Queen album.
That's right.
Are you critical of your own work? I mean, it seems odd that you could go in there and sort of
I think, you can, I mean, that's one reason I have Mac, is to have someone with an outside perspective.
The Stroke was the breakout, a pounding, hypnotic beat slathered with innuendo.
Now everybody, have you heard?
Most listeners thought it was about sex. Squier said it was about the music business. Either way, it became a smash.
If you're in the game, then the Stroke's the word.
It was followed by In the Dark, My Kinda Lover, and Lonely as the Night.
You got me running, baby. You give me something way beyond revenue. All about your life, starting out to wear.
Every one of them hit. Radio couldn't get enough.
My Kind of Lover, that was a great song. There's a part where you're actually...
My candelabra, yes.
My candelabra. You could say in the video you were the part of the candle and there was a lot of flames grabbing on. And when you had this video, these girls are mauling you, they're grabbing you and stuff. You're singing through the whole thing on this little platform stage that kind of extends out from the stage. What is it like dealing with something like that? I mean, I personally...
You're referring to that NBC show?
Oh, yeah.
No, that was actually a little scary because they had me and the guy who looks after me, who weighs about 350 pounds, and you normally can get me out of anything. He had me going one way and they had me going the other way, and there was no one really had control of that. So it was very exciting, but it was a little scary.
MTV was still in its infancy, but they jumped on Squier's videos. He had the look, sharp cheekbones, lean build, wild curls, and he could move. On stage, he worked the crowd like a veteran. Within a year, he was opening for Queen. Then he was headlining arenas. Don't Say No sold over 3 million copies. Squier had arrived. The follow-up, Emotions in Motion, came in 1982. And it was more than a sequel, it was a statement. The title track leaned into funkier territory. The artwork, designed by Andy Warhol, suggested confidence and swagger. Freddie Mercury and David Bowie sang backing vocals on a few tracks. Squier was now mixing with rock royalty. Everybody Wants You was the hit. It had a stalking, slinky riff and a vocal snarl. It stayed at #1 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart for 6 straight weeks. The tour was huge, the audiences were loyal, the album went platinum. Squier was at the height of his power. He wasn't just making hits, he was shaping the sound of early 80s rock, accessible but heavy, commercial but credible. He could write an anthem and shred a solo. That balance made him one of the decade's most bankable stars, and it set the stage for the next move. In 1984, Squier released Signs of Life. The lead single, Rock Me Tonight, was a good song. Catchy, well-produced. The kind of track that should have extended his hot streak. But then came the video. Directed by Kenny Ortega, the video showed Squier waking up, dancing around a pastel-colored bedroom, stripping his shirt off, and writhing on satin sheets. It was supposed to be theatrical, sensual, Bowie-esque, but it missed the mark. To fans, it looked awkward, forced, uncomfortable. For an artist known for his tough, masculine stage presence, the video seemed like a betrayal. Rock fans can be unforgiving. The backlash was immediate. Radio cooled. Ticket sales dropped. Squier would later say, "It killed me overnight." Whether or not that's entirely true is up for debate, but the impact was real. The song charted, but the album didn't match past successes. His next records were solid, but no longer essential. The momentum was gone. The late 80s and early 90s were difficult.
Actually, we spent quite a long time making this record. Probably could have recorded 2 or 3 records in the space that we devoted to this particular one. And towards the end of it,
Squier released Enough Is Enough in 1986, Here and Now in 1989, and Creatures of Habit in 1991. They had moments. Don't Say You Love Me got some airplay. But the industry had moved on. Grunge was rising. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. They weren't interested in arena rock anthems. And Squier, fairly or unfairly, was seen as part of the old guard. In 1993 he put out Tell the Truth, a stripped-down, more introspective album. It was a critical reset. No flash, no gloss, just songs, but it didn't sell. After that, he walked away. No press conference, no farewell tour, just silence. For a while it seemed like Billy Squier had vanished.
I didn't play very much between 1993 and 1998.
How do you, after all Don't Say No, all these albums, how do you put it down and leave it alone? What did you do?
I didn't, it was painful. You know, the business was too painful. You know,
What part of the business do you hate, though? There must be something that really drove you crazy.
I just don't like the way the business manipulates artists now.
But the music never really went away. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the big beat became a favorite among hip-hop producers. Its drums were sampled by dozens of artists. Run DMC, Big Daddy Kane, Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, Dizzy Rascal. Suddenly, Billy Squier's sound was in clubs and on charts again, even if no one realized it. He'd become a godfather of groove, quietly, unexpectedly. Squier started making occasional appearances, acoustic sets, benefit concerts. He never chased the spotlight. He'd had his run. He was more interested in conservation, in his home in the Hamptons, in living on his own terms.
I was probably, I would say, more ready, willing, and able to do what might be in the interest of the product. I don't want to make music in the industry. If I don't care if I'm successful by those standards, I can write again.
Over time, the narrative changed. People looked past the video, they listened to the records again, and they heard it. The power, the craft, the energy. Billy Squier's story isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder. A reminder that talent and timing don't always guarantee control. That image can shape destiny. That the industry is fickle. But it's also a reminder that good songs last. That hooks endure. That even when the spotlight fades, the music can echo for decades. Billy Squier didn't vanish. He just changed the channel. And the rhythm of the big beat still shakes floors, still fuels verses, still pulses through speakers. Because in the end, you can turn down the lights, but you can't turn off the sound.